morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Please rise when you're able for our joy song. Put a little love in your heart.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, family. It's time to turn off our smartphones and cell phones of all sorts. I don't see anybody moving, so that means they're all off, right? Today, Maurita will be bringing our message, and Kate will be our reader. We're welcoming back Carrie.
Yay!
I'm looking around for anybody new, but it looks like everybody is familiar. Okay. Kate, come on up for our reading.
When things go wrong in our lives, we may wonder if God really hears our prayers. We've all experienced these feelings. God hearing us is not the problem. It is training ourselves to hear God. But in an upset state of affairs, one may even declare a moratorium on prayer. Wavering faith and inconsistency rob prayer of its effectiveness. Even in the midst of inner turmoil, we should be mindful that prayer is the gateway to harmonious living. We become frightened when life seems bleak. We feel alone and helpless, forgetting that those who walk with Him can never have a solitary way. We're never alone unless we separate ourselves from God. Prayer is a simple turning to God. The mystical quality of communion with God may not be intellectually comprehensible, but it is spiritually discernible. Feeling is more profound than reasoning. True feeling, not just emotionalism. Jesus Christ told His disciples that the kingdom of God is at hand. God's availability is forever now. Effective prayer is the giving of ourselves. God will distribute the blessings. We just have to trust. Father, in the midst of life's distractions, may I no longer wonder if my prayers are heard. May I get the message and find peace.
All right, before we sing our first hymn, I have a special request. As you know, children all over Roanoke and the neighboring counties and cities are going back to school soon, so when you see a school bus out, or if you see a child anywhere, If you're hugging a child anywhere, make sure you say a special blessing for all the kids going back to school, that they'll be happy, blessed, and learning. And don't forget the teachers. Our first hymn is number 85, Endless Love, and we will sing both verses. It's Endless Love Abiding. It's hymn number 85, and stand when you're ready.
This morning, my Bible verse is from Isaiah 55, 2 and 3. Wherefore do ye labor for that which satisfieth not? Incline your ear, and come unto me. Hear, and your soul shall live. Why do you labor for that which doesn't satisfy you? Isaiah's asking. You know, we can get so involved with the requirements of life, the nitty-gritty, that all of our attention is focused there. And we are subject, of course, to the ups and downs that go along with life. It's common. And we certainly are not inwardly satisfied by it. But he says, incline your ear and come unto me. Come unto me. Hear, and your soul shall live. What he's talking about, in other words, is practicing the presence of God. It's reminding yourself on a regular basis that right in the midst of whatever is going on, whether it happens to be wonderful, or it's just the same old, it's trying or it's satisfying, God is right there. God is in the midst. And as we remember that, then our soul is fulfilled in a way that it is not when we don't bring that in, when we forget, when we just absorb ourselves 100% in the events of life. It's a surefire way to live a more inwardly contented, satisfied, peaceful life. Because you're being fed on another level of your being. And that dimension of ourselves must not be ignored. We ignore it at our peril, really, and get into a lot of trouble. Because what happens is we're laboring and we're not satisfied. We're living day by day and doing what's required and doing some of the fun things and so forth and so on. But it doesn't fulfill all of us. I don't know how one goes about reminding oneself of these things. You set up little pockets of reminders. You say prayer over meals, maybe. Maybe you meditate. And perhaps you have a time of day or evening when you pray. You say a few words of prayer for people you know, people you don't know, the people whose names you take out of the basket. But it needs to be part of life. There need to be these little signposts through our days. The Muslims were very intelligent. They set it up 5 times a day. 5 times. You faced Mecca and you remembered God. Christianity doesn't have anything quite like that. But we can do it for ourselves. And what it'll do is make life so much more satisfying. Infinitely more satisfying. It's a thought. It's an idea. It's an idea you might want to think about. Maybe even act on. But if you do, I guarantee that life will be better. I guarantee that life will be more fulfilled. Because you will be feeding that eternal, non-physical, powerful part of yourself. Shall we say our divine science statement of being you'll find in your orders of service. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am the individualized expression of God and am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance.
That's pretty close.
I see trees of green and red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Something doesn't sound right. Let me see.
The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by.
I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies crying, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh yeah.
Do you have anything in the prayer box? Thank you. Oh, this is the time in our service when we take a deep breath and relax, let go. Checking our faces and shoulders, arms and hands, our backs and stomachs, legs and feet. And as we release our consciousness of the body, we can begin to quiet the mind, move away from that flow of words, ideas that incessantly fill our minds, and just slow everything down. So we begin to uncover, release the peace that is already within us, that we don't experience on an ongoing level, because so often our minds, our time, our attention is filled with things. So right now, we dwell right there in peace and relaxation and silence, and affirm the truth of ourselves, the truth of everyone we know, the truth of everyone we don't know. And that is that we are part of the omnipresence of God. We are part of the activity of God. We are part of the purpose of God. We are part of God in action. And the more we realize this and participate fully in that activity, the greater blessing we are to life. The more productive we are, the more inwardly and outwardly harmonious we are, the more creative we are. How wonderful. What a blessing to be able to participate in life so fully and know that we are being used, that we are part of that incessant flow of creativity and beauty and good manifesting right where we are. Beloved father, mother, friend, companion, inspirer, awesome creator, infinitely powerful. Here am I. Use me. As I look forward to that, as I invite it, as I become accustomed to thinking of myself in that way, as a partner of God's, the greater good comes to me and through me to others. Today I accept that partnership. I accept all that it means, for as the energy of life is given free expression through me, through love, through seeing the good in others, through seeking to be a blessing right where I am, then body, mind, as well as spirit are healed, made whole, lifted, become a blessing to each and all. Right now, we include in our consciousness of this omnipresence everyone who is on our Valley Community Church prayer list. We include our government and its leadership. We include the governments of all the countries of the world and their leadership. We include our armed forces serving here in the United States and in far-flung places. Of course, we include you and the people you love, the people you know. The people you know need prayer. In the 90 seconds of silence that we are going to have right now, we give thanks. Thankful that we are aware of all that we are a part of and what blessing we can be, our being, right where we are. unto me, all ye who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I will give you insight. I will give you surcease from fatigue or discouragement. Or self-limiting thoughts. I will show you the blessing you are and the blessing you can be to all who surround you. No more heavy laden, carrying the responsibilities of life lightly, with eagerness and satisfaction. Here am I, Father. Here am I, Mother. Here am I, friend, protector, inspirer. Thank you. Amen. Shall we say the affirmative version of the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed is thy name. Thy kingdom is come, thy will is done on earth as it is in heaven. Thou givest us this day our daily bread. Thou forgivest us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Thou leadest us not into temptation, but dost deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever
and ever.
Amen. This morning I'm going to be talking about the power of grit. Grit. What does that mean? Grit means persistence and perseverance. And actually, the subject of grit has gotten a lot of attention from social scientists over the last 15, 20, 25 years or so. Why? Well, there seem to be a lot of different reasons why persistence is an important thing. Now, evolutionary biologists tell us that the quality of persistence might be the reason why we are still here as a species. That's interesting news. Some 2 million years ago or so, when our ancient humanoid ancestors roamed the world, they were at a very distinct disadvantage. They didn't have big fangs. They didn't have a bunch of claws like so many other of the wild animals had. They couldn't protect themselves that way, and then they couldn't attack their enemies with these kind of tools. They didn't have the strength that larger animals had. They didn't even have a heavy fur coat to keep them warm in extreme climates. Food sources were very uncertain a couple million years ago. There were a lot of predatory species that would have looked on humanoids as a very nice snack. One very important thing that our ancient ancestors seem to have developed was something that gave them a definite edge. And that was the ability to run long distances. To run. Now, most mammals were only capable of running really fast for a short distance. And then they would, it would be just a brief burst of energy, and it would last very long. But long, long before the invention of spears or bow and arrows, humanoids did what was called persistence hunting. Persistence hunting. And what that meant was they just jogged after an animal, a large animal, for hours until that fleeing prey overheated and collapsed from fatigue. And then they could get close, and the fangs and the claws were not as dangerous. They could move in for the kill. And that source of high protein really helped their bodies, and especially their brains, to grow and to develop. And it was only much, much, much later, as late as just 150,000 years ago, it made possible the kind of brain development so that they could figure out how to make spears and bows and arrows. Now, researchers have discovered the part of the brain that they believe is responsible for grit, that is, for persistence, for perseverance. And they say to us, and it's true, that this portion of our brains can be strengthened with some effort. We can get grittier, we can get more persistent. Matter of practice. Furthermore, it's something we would want to improve, certainly. Now, psychologists have defined grit as, quote, maintaining an interest in goals despite obstacles, adversity, or failure. Now, these same scientists have tested thousands of students and workers and military cadets for how much grit they have. Interestingly, grittier people generally get more years of education, they get better marks, they get better grades in their education, and they are much more apt to complete specialized training programs. That's good news. And amazingly, they found out that there wasn't a correlation between intelligence and grit. Some very intelligent people don't have a lot of persistence. And also, someone who is high grit, persistent, with a medium IQ, often outperforms someone with a high IQ and low grit. So they're telling us that persistence is every bit as crucial to success as intelligence, perhaps more so. That's interesting news. They did a study at Oregon State University, and they followed 430 children for 20 years. That's a really longitudinal study, long study. But they found out that preschoolers, 4 or 5-year-olds, who could pay attention and persist in their tasks were much, much more apt to get good grades in school and were 50% more likely to graduate from college. How about that? You can imagine who was most interested in this information. Teachers and educators, especially those who were dealing with marginalized students. They were really interested. And believe me, that with this interest came the idea to give special honors and special awards to students, marginalized students, any student, who learned to persist. Because if a student could learn to persist, they could learn anything. Success was 100% more assured than without that grit. What I really found fascinating is that a similar study to the one in Oregon where they followed all those children for so many years, they gave this test on grit to people in 54 different countries. And according to what these people self-reported, in 54 countries, their levels of persistence was so low that it was almost negligible. Now that's astonishing. Apparently, perseverance doesn't seem to be a common trait in a lot of other countries. Maybe it isn't emphasized as much as it is in our country. It makes you wonder if persistence might be more spoken about or more encouraged in the United States. Perhaps we think of it as being the pathway to a more successful life in the United States. For whatever reason, we've got more of it here. Persistence in the face of adversity isn't easy. It probably wasn't easy for our ancient forebearers, but hunger is a terrific motivator. And sheer survival is an even stronger motivator. So they went after those large animals with that persistence hunting. But perseverance actually has been encouraged throughout the world by the wisest among us. The Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu wrote, "Perseverance is the foundation of all actions." Now, he saw the value of it, persistence. Plutarch, that was the Greek biographer and writer, said, "Many things which cannot be overcome when they are together yield themselves up when taken little by little." And that old familiar philosopher, American philosopher Ben Franklin said, "Energy and persistence conquer all things." Good words, smart words. They're not the only ones who emphasize this. This has certainly been going on for a long time. You wouldn't automatically think of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, the poet, as an outstanding spokesman for persistence. He didn't seem to overcome a tremendous lot of obstacles in his life, but actually he became very famous for his poetry quite early on in life. And between becoming a full professor at Harvard and marrying into one of the wealthiest families in Massachusetts, he certainly didn't have financial challenges. But his most famous statement was, "Perseverance is a great element of success. If you only knock long enough and loud enough at the gate, you're sure to wake up somebody." His most famous poem, Evangeline, is about the persistence of a woman looking for her lost lover. And in his own life, his biographers describe him as a man of quiet perseverance. He was a man who raised his children by himself when his wife died young. So he practiced what he preached. Now, if it sounds like I'm trying to make an airtight case for us to practice persistence, you're right, obviously. But as we look back, the things that have meant the most to us, to you and to me, have often been accomplished just by putting one foot in front of another, just keeping on, moving gradually towards something really worthwhile. As we look back in our lives, the major effort we might have made to achieve these goals begins to dim. We forget the details after a while, but the goal itself remains very clear and very worthwhile to revisit in our minds. It was certainly worth whatever effort it took to get to that good goal. But as I say, just revisiting these memories of what we accomplished and the effort that we had to make to accomplish those things, that's a very good reminder. It's a reminder that if there are some good goals we still want to achieve, then we need to pursue them. Be assured, those quiet inner questions, those little nudges, could be God whispering, God urging us to take that step into the unknown. that risk, perhaps, that start of a course of study or the beginning of a process that would lead us into something new, something exciting, because it is actually God working through us. Are we secretly being called to do or be something more? A little different? Is there a new role? Is there a new opportunity? An idea we need to pursue? We don't walk the paths of earth idly. We are all here for a purpose, usually multiple purposes. And we sometimes have no idea how remarkable those purposes can be. Now, everybody's heard the story of George Danzig. Maybe you don't know the name, but you remember this story. George was a student at UC Berkeley, and he arrived at class late one day. The professor had been talking about some classic statistics problems that had never been solved, and he'd written them on the board, and George assumed that the problems on the board were the homework assignment. Remember that story now? Yeah. He thought they were just a particularly tough assignment, so he just kept working on them week after week, and he made history by actually solving the problems. Well, now something like what George Danzig did is incredibly rare, but it's also a very clear example of how much more all of us are capable of when we don't accept false limitations. Nobody can do this. He didn't know it. How many times have people said to us, or we've said to ourselves, oh, I can't do that. We've accepted a false limitation. So what is limiting us right now? Is it possible that an idea, a goal, a service, a secret desire, something that's long lingered at the outside edges of our mind, could be a very important reason why we are still walking the paths of earth? Remember what Plutarch said. Many things which cannot be overcome when they are together yield themselves up when taken little by little. Perhaps starting in just a very small way, a little bit, is exactly what could fit into your life right now. Start small and persist. Don't fear. Don't be limited. Do you remember the story? It was in 2 Kings about the king of Syria. And he was so disturbed because the king of Israel, his sworn enemy over the hill there, seemed to know exactly what he was going to plan to do all the time. And he I think, thought that perhaps somebody was giving this away. Somebody was telling the king of Israel. And his servant said, no, no, no. It was the prophet Elisha. And Elisha knew what he was saying in his bedroom, what the king of Syria was saying in his bedroom. And so the king of Syria said, where is this man? And the servant said, oh, he's in Dothan. So the king of Syria promptly gathered an army together and horses and chariots, and he was going to make sure that he got this Elisha. The army approached by night, surrounded the city where Elisha was, and early the next morning, when Elisha's servant got up, he saw what had happened. He was terrified. He ran to Elisha. What should they do? Elisha said, fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire around Elisha. It's a wonderful story from 2 Kings. And it's a terrific reminder that there is so much more with us, helping us, protecting us, than we can ever imagine. We don't see it. Our eyes aren't opened. But it is there. It is there because the presence of God and good are right where we are. Life is beckoning all of us to put aside any fear, any bit of laziness, self-imposed or perhaps imagined limitations, and utilize our uniqueness, our imagination, our whispered inspiration, and step out in a very small way. We are all here for a very special purpose. Sometimes a purpose that we have yet to discover. Never forget that we have the power of grit within us. We wouldn't be here. We would not be here today if our ancient ancestors hadn't practiced the power to persist. And we've all inherited that power. What does that still small voice within you say? What beckons to you? What do you need to clarify or create or improve? How can you be, as Mother Teresa said, a pencil in the hand of God? You already have the power of grit. How do you want to use it? Let's go with it. And let's know together that we are here for a purpose. Perhaps a far greater purpose than we know. And let us put aside any sense of fear or discomfort or thought that, what a lot of trouble. And ask to be used. Ask to become a pencil in the hand of God. Ask to change or improve. Add to. Bless life in some unique way. We are here for a purpose. A vital, important purpose. A purpose greater than we know. Thank you, beloved friend, father, mother, creator, inspirer, strengthener. Thank you for direction and grit. Amen.
Amen. Well, let's see.
Y'all have heard of Mac Davis? Remember that guy? He was a great songwriter. And he had some really good songs. Some of which I chose not to do this morning, which was like Baby, Baby, Don't Get Hooked on Me. Or Lord, It's Hard to Be Home. But now this one. Let me run my capo up a little bit. Try that. Hey, mister, where you going in such a hurry? Don't you think it is time you realize? Well, there's a whole lot more to life than work and worry. And the sweetest things in life are free, and they're right before your eyes. You better stop and smell the roses. You gotta count your many blessings every day. Are you gonna find your way to heaven? It's a rough and rocky road if you don't stop and smell the roses along the way. Before you went to work this morning in the city, or did you spend some time with your family? Now did you kiss your wife and tell her that she's pretty? Did you take your children to your breast and love them tenderly? You better stop and smell the roses. You better count your many blessings every day. Are you gonna find your way to heaven? It's a rough and rocky road if you don't stop and smell the roses along the way. Did you ever take a walk through the forest? Stop and dream a while among the trees. Well, you can look up through those trees right straight to heaven. And you can almost hear the voice of God in each and every breeze. You better stop and smell the roses. You better count your many blessings every day. You're gonna find your way to heaven. It's a rough and rocky road if you don't stop and smell the roses along the way.
Sure, it's good to have you back. I love your music. All right, friends, it's time for us to give what was first given to us. Our time, ourselves, our possessions. If you'll say with me a blessing for our gifts. Today I acknowledge God, omnipresent, as the source of all good, as the source of my good. With this acknowledgement, I accept His will, which is abundance in every aspect of my life. I release all thoughts of lack and limitation, and I am open and receptive to the increased flow of abundance to me right now. I joyfully accept the gifts of life and give freely of the special gift that I am. Through me, God omnipresent blesses and multiplies this gift for all. Thank you, dear God. And take this moment to turn to someone near you. Thank them for the special gift that they are. And don't forget to be thankful for yourself.
Special gift.
I feel so bad about missing your birthday.
Please help yourself to someone's name, blessing you and blessing them by remembering them in prayer through the week. Thank you.
morning.
Good morning, Jan.
Okay, try to make these short today. I say that all the time, then I linger on. Anyhow, tomorrow, board meeting, 4 o'clock. Everybody's welcome. It's in the annex, 4 o'clock, we start. Whether you're not here, we start. Next Saturday night, we have scheduled a game night. I don't have any details yet, but I guess we'll be getting with Kate and Pam and Wendy and see what we've got scheduled. You know about what time, 6:30, is that what we? 6:30 is okay, all right. So I'll be making a one call later in the week about that. So I plan on coming to join us Saturday night for whatever we decide to do. Next Sunday is potluck Sunday. We've decided to do potluck like every other month instead of every month for a while, just to see how that works. So, and especially the holidays are coming up, so we didn't do one last month, so we're doing it this month. So it'll be next Sunday, it'll be potluck. This week's flowers are for Nancy's birthday. Happy birthday early, Nancy. Also, we started the past couple weeks. We've been taking up donations for the Oak Grove teachers. We had a list of things, and we're going to do that. Probably we'll go ahead and do it through the end of August. There's a list of things that the teachers always have a need for, so we're going to take up collection for that. And also, we're still doing on an ongoing basis the snack pack program with the kids at Oak Grove. You haven't talked to them yet, Martha, about how many kids they have? Okay. But last year they had like 38 kids that they needed. We sent snack pack programs, things home for on the weekends for these kids. So we're going to continue to do that. We do that on an ongoing basis all year round. So just keep that in mind. And other than that, do you have anything, Maurita? Okay.
I do. There will be a Wednesday night study group this week. And I want to do one other thing that I have neglected to do for quite some time. And that is to award certificates of completion to 3 people who finished their meditation classes, and they are Doug Watts, Vicki Dodson, and Bob Brooks. And if they would come up and receive their certificates of completion, great students, I'm telling you, they just do a wonderful job. Wonderful job. And thank you. Just this. And Mom. Thank you for being there. Doing such a fine job. Thank you.
I think next week there'll be some more certificates coming. Correct, Nancy? Okay. Just wanted to also mention, I do this. Please remember to take these home with you. They have things on there that I don't announce as far as other things that we do, like collecting change for the church and different things. So feel free to take these home and keep them. We've got plenty more, or we can certainly print more of them. That's not a big issue. Also, from time to time, people pass things on to me, and I just want to pass it on. Somebody gave me this flyer, and it's called Good RX Information. It's for people that might need some help with their drug costs if they have a lot of pharmacy costs. So if you want to, I'll post this in the kitchen if anybody wants to see it or make copies of it or whatever. I like to pass information on that can help people out. So, you know, if you need that, just see me.
Our final hymn for today is number 14, Love is the Answer, and we will sing both verses. That's number 14, both verses. Thank you for standing.
Love is the answer, love is the
It's just me, don't worry.
We are hand in hand, remembering the power of grit that we have within us, the ability to persist and to achieve, to bless, to help. Today, let us affirm that we are inspired by that creative energy that made us and of which we are a part. And that wondrous things can unfold as we open ourselves to that inspiration, to that power, and to that goal for direction and protection and inspiration. Beloved, we give deepest thanks. Amen.